one of our class recordings?
I think I have once, but it would not like play the video and it'd say like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm having that problem. So when you sign into like this, are you going through your student email, or are you going through your personal email?
I try to get into the student email and still
Okay.
I won't play. It would say error or something along the lines.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to work with that. I can't quite figure out why that's not working. It's not working for a lot of other professors at all also. So I don't know quite what is happening with that, which is a bummer. So I may ask you guys to try to play the video and let me know if that works. I'm still trying to work on that. Okay, with that, so today we're going to talk about our SWOT analysis with the three of you. Then we're going to talk a lot about mood boards and the logo that eventually will come out of the mood board. And then I am changing all the deadlines for the mood board and the logo because of Labor Day weekend, because we're not meeting next Monday. So that was not planned in the deadlines when we initially came up with that for this class. We didn't take into account not meeting next Monday. So with that, I'm going to try to share the screen, and I think I'm going to go to Elijah. I might go to is your SWOT analysis up on the Blackboard?
No, that is what I am working on now, since I'm getting caught up with the research and the SWOT analysis.
The research, okay. Well, I think then I might go to Kathy. I might go to yours first and let you go first. Then we'll do Sarah, and then we'll do Elijah. Then we'll do you. Okay. Let's see. Oops, I'm trying to go to. Well, that didn't work. You know, that's one thing that I've got to figure out how to get this thing to work fast enough so that I can actually look at that. It just does not seem to want to do it. So Kathy, we're not going to look at it. Why don't you just go through your SWOT analysis and tell us what your research and analysis showing for you. Yeah.
I can also share on my screen if you don't mind.
Okay, fine.
Do you see it?
I can. Yep, perfect. Great.
So for like Amanda's boutique, it just gave me a very Southerner vibe, because when I think of boutiques, I think of like Southerners buying like for older women and stuff like that. So that's what I have in mind for her boutiques. So obviously the target audience will be since this is going to be in Salisbury, I would be thinking of people who are in Salisbury, middle age, typically white citizens, around upper to middle class, maybe higher class. But again, when I think of boutiques, I think around like middle or high, like lower class. People who usually shop in boutiques will be like middle-aged mothers or single women who are way older, like maybe like 40 or something. Obviously, women, their competitors would be like other stores in the downtown area that's been there longer. Especially this one boutique. I don't remember what its name. I think it's like Three Gems Boutique or something. It's more of a hand-me-down store, like a Goodwill's. So I feel like that would be their big competitor since it's been there the longest, and obviously online shopping, Concord Mill, malls in general, will be their bigger competitor. Um, how I feel like how the store could be different in my mind, I can imagine it having like a more different interior design, or maybe kind of like not look as typical like most boutiques are. Because example, when I think of the word boutique, I think of like I don't know what the brand is called, but they have like really fancy type, and they always have polka dots on every single like uh, item they have, and it's cheesy to be honest from my point of view. But I don't know. I'm not a middle-aged woman yet. Um, Strengths. It's a shopping store in downtown area, and there's a lot of people in downtown. But Salisbury is I think I like to consider Salisbury very semi-small towns. Their threats are obviously, shopping malls and like online shopping. The biggest opportunity you can do is open your own online shopping. Um, and here, how they can like get more. Here, what I wrote for like how they can get more audiences, maybe sell items that younger people would like, but younger people would always not wear these clothes unless they have a taste for vintage. But maybe like phone cases or like those pop socket, you slap on the back of your phone and you can like basically, I don't know what they're called, but or what they do, but I see a lot of those. And obviously because I really want to change the logo because it's not a very good logo, to be honest. It's very tacky. This obviously has to go, and then maybe maybe we can keep the color, but the fonts and this is really not necessary. And for the element, yeah, again, the audience is for older women. And what I think of when I think about like Helena's boutique, I think of the word like sweet southerner and like ranch, like because again, I think of southerner, ranch, so you get the flow.
Okay. Sweet Southern. I love the combination there of sweet and Southern, but then ranch doesn't quite go.
I get that, but I'm just like trying to think like what. There's another word that goes like that, sweet Southern. I forgot what the third word was, but I don't want like verbatim copy that. So I know that needs like work on.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Sarah or Elijah, any another word that goes with sweet and Southern?
You're echoing, so it's hard to understand you. What did you say?
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of a echo. So her tagline, that's a start of a tagline, sweet and Southern. And I was wondering, there's another like ranch, like what's another word that could go with sweet and Southern and another idea besides ranch?
I don't know.
Yeah. To brainstorm, sweet Southern.
I've heard a lot of stuff like that, but I can't think of anything right now.
Yeah.
Same. Well, that obviously needs work on.
That's a great start. So sweet Southern and something. Belk has a good tagline. What is it? Now I can't remember what the Belk tagline is. Modern, Southern, simple, or something. Simple. Yeah. Simple might be a thought.
Could be a thought.
It doesn't have to, have the first letter S, but it just sort of would sound good as a thought.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's easy. Once you come up with something like that, I mean, it's one of those things that that is a great thing, that sort of brand that can drive your brand. If you have a tag like that, then okay, I'm looking for these three things. And the logo is bad because I want us to do a new one.
Yeah. I felt, I don't know if I have to do like a new one because I was like, oh, is that for like another assignment? So I just said like why I thought was bad.
Yeah, I intentionally made that logo bad. or should I say Rhineland, the department head, he made it bad, and so that's what we'll do it with. So interesting. Okay, so you're in sort of when you say older, you really mean sort of 40 plus, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you're going to keep it downtown, and you're still going to do clothing, but try to obviously not have it go with the logo.
Yeah.
And then are you going to add some other items that you mentioned? Or you think you're adding some younger items for younger people or not?
Maybe, yeah, because obviously some people shop with their mothers, so obviously they probably want something for themselves, and they don't want like older clothing like for middle-aged women. They probably want like maybe an iPhone case or something. So maybe like typical stuff, or maybe I'll add in like shoes or something.
Okay. Okay, good. Great. Sarah and Elijah, any thoughts about the SWOT that Kathy just presented? Things that stood out to you?
I like the idea of adding an online store.
Yeah. Because these days everyone goes to online stores and physical stores, especially in this current climate. But even before that, online shopping it's been bigger to use.
I think every store has to have an online presence, so that's good. Okay.
I think a lot of just the research that went into it was pretty good. Like a lot of it's consistent with what I've been coming up with, especially the target demographic and how it would be a lot of like middle class people. Because I was looking at some of the demographics in Salisbury, and they have a kind of a below average median income, and they have a very high poverty rate. So low middle class would be like a definite place to try to appeal to with and I think that was a very good point brought up.
Okay, good. So Kathy, I think that's great. I think you got some things to work with, especially that tagline and your thoughts on the online store. And it's funny, I don't know what store you mentioned that has the polka dots. Sarah or Elijah, do you know what that store is?
Yeah, it's not a store, but like if you go, okay, so I see this a lot. If you walk into Concord Mills and it's like an IKEA little thing, you know what our IKEAs are, like just stand.
Yeah.
So like, they'll like have this. They'll be selling like bags or something. Mostly with their bags, like have polka dots on it, like white polka dots, and they have that silly font, like it's all like cursive and stuff.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That's why I always think when I think of boutiques, because like I see that so many in like, especially in high school, every girl had that.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, I have the same exact opinion of boutiques as you do.
Okay, well, interesting. I'll have to look at that. But I mean, but obviously that's their brand. They're going afterwards. Not everyone likes it. You guys don't like it, but I'll have to look at that. Interesting. Okay. Sarah, can you share your SWOT? If you can share your screen, that'd be great. If not, you could just go through it verbally.
I don't know if I could share my screen. Last time I tried last semester, it really wasn't working at all. So I'll just tell you what I have in my SWOT.
Okay.
So I have completely changed her business. It is now a thrift store. It's still going to be in downtown Salisbury. Because of the low income people there, I decided to make it a thrift store because they're always really cheap and you can get some pretty cool stuff in there. And thrifting is now a really popular thing to do. So I thought it was the best idea. It like every gender and age could shop there. So I thought it would get a good bit of business, but the problems with thrift stores that I've researched have been like having gross things into the donations and not having the clothes cleaned before putting them on the racks. So I've tried to make a problem solved for all of those. So I decided to make an alteration station inside the thrift store itself. And but like some of the threats about that would be like the cost of fixing the clothing for them would be too expensive for me to charge for. And A strength that I have is that she already has experience selling clothes. A weakness that I have is that she would have limited space because boutiques aren't usually that big and thrift stores are kind of bigger than that, so that would be a problem. And another weakness with that is that she would have to pay someone to do the alterations and hire someone. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, in this particular one of the nice things about this project is you can almost spare no expense in some ways. In real life, you obviously have to worry about expense, but in this idea, you could consider doing it and not worry too much about the expense.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I like the clean and repaired thing. Okay, what else? Anything else?
Let me see.
So it's a thrift store, thrifting. I like the whole, so cleaned up, but then altered once people pick it out. So not altered ahead of time.
Well, most people who shop at thrift stores, sometimes when you go there, it's hard to find things in your size, but you like that piece of clothing, so you want to get it where you can fit you. So I figured that was a good way of doing that.
Okay. Okay. One thing I would suggest research-wise is here in Charlotte, the Goodwill industry has a boutique, and it's called GW, just for Goodwill, but short. And it's not in the Goodwill store. It is, things that get donated, but they pick the better stuff and put them in this boutique.
I didn't know that.
Yep. Well, it's only been around 2 years. So do a little research on it's Goodwill of Central Piedmont or something, and it's in Charlotte. And look up their GW boutique.
Okay.
Just to get some ideas. And one of the things they do is they have a whole simple idea. Not to steal, we're not going to steal from Kathy, but when you look at the logo and design, they've definitely gone down the very simple path. Okay. So look at that. Yeah, don't worry about expense. So does Amanda's boutique, we didn't give a size for that, did we?
Well, I just thought that normally boutiques were that kind of little, like.
They usually are smaller. You're right.
Yeah.
You could easily say you're moving to a new location or expanding, so don't let that limit you either.
All right.
Okay. Okay. And we haven't talked too much about the logo, but one of the things you could do is it's called Amanda's Boutique. You could add a word to it. It could be Amanda's Thrifting Boutique.
Okay.
So you have the ability to change the name of the store. Okay. Kathy and Elijah, any suggestions for Sarah?
I'm not sure. It seems like she has everything down, especially like how she changed it up to a thrifting and alteration store. So I think that's really interesting what you're doing there.
Yeah, I think that was a really good concept, especially with the idea of people being, like it being really cheap and that being very popular with lower income people. I think that it is a very good direction to go for in general.
Thank you.
One thing you could do with the whole alt or altering thing is you could partner with, you could basically open 2 stores and have Amanda's Boutique next door to an alteration place and have a deal where you get 50% off, or you have free alterations with the store next door for so many pieces per purchase or something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but I felt like that was just getting too into the altering part of it, so I didn't go too far.
Right. I mean, it is, you can sort of disregard expense in this. It's good that you're thinking about expense, but you could easily say, okay, you're hiring someone who's going to watch the store and also they're good at alterations. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So as you're thinking about things, obviously, I like the whole idea of the thrift alteration thing, and the whole clean and repaired. I don't know. That's another good tagline. So you got a bunch of stuff to work with. Okay. Great. Elijah, tell us what you're thinking about.
Well, I'm currently working on the SWOT analysis for my research. So for the purpose I have, obviously, it's to sell, clothing. Boutiques tend to be associated, it's a kind of a fancy word for a place, so it tends to be more fancy clothing, dresses and stuff. I think the main target audience, as they both have said before, was older women. Usually, the largest demographics there are white women and African American women. Those two, and those would be those like older, like 40 plus, and lower to middle class. I think the location is fine. There's a lot of people in that area, and for competitors, clothing stores. I listed a few specific examples. I actually didn't look if those were in Salisbury. I would imagine they were, but obviously Walmart is in Salisbury for sure. Those have clothing sections. They may not necessarily have the same kind of fancy clothing, but it's still like a much more easily accessible place. Like, if you're going to go buy food and you're like, oh, I'm able to buy some clothes while I'm here too. Or then there's places like Maurice's. Those have, as far as I know, that has a lot more fancy clothing, which could be a similar kind of thing. Obviously, and this is a different demographic, but if they're trying to reach out to men and women, in the initial thing, Hot Topic is another place that's like in malls that I see sometimes. That's another clothing store that could be a potential competitor. I don't know if there's one in Salisbury or not. I forgot to check that. But I said the type of clothing at these places would be often different, but they have a similar clothing niche, especially with a more modern audience, since there's there's a lot more younger people who nowadays don't really care about fancy clothing. They want just like what looks cool or what looks interesting, or like stuff from their TV shows or books they like or whatever. Another thing is that those definitely have a large presence online, and I can't imagine that Amanda's Boutique has basically anything online whatsoever. So then for my tips, I put that the logo should definitely be updated or redone. I said it's very tacky. It does not appeal to very many people at all. And I think, so my thing here was that I think because it's a boutique, I was like, instead of trying to appeal to both women and men, I think it'd be better just to try to go for primarily women, because they typically shop for clothes a lot more, in my experience, than men do. Because most people I know, they just go to the store, they buy like a t-shirt, and they're like, oh, this is all I need. Then there's as said, adding an online presence is something that is absolutely mandatory in the modern era, so they should absolutely do that. I said, I think that the colors and aesthetic of the logo and brand can remain fairly consistent. I do think that those fit with the idea of a fancier place, like lighter colors with like feminine colors like pink, purple. But I don't think the logo itself is very eye-catching, so it could definitely be redone. And then one idea I also had here was that I think one of those, the two before me mentioned it, but adopt modern clothing that can go alongside the fancy stuff to appeal to like younger people who might be shopping with their parents or grandparents. And that's who I have. That's what I have from my research.
Okay, so that's a good start. And I mean, I like the idea as you're trying to take the research and then turn it into a SWOT to figure out your direction. You sort of mentioned fancy and modern. That's an interesting concept. Sort of dressy / casual or modern, or you could go down that whole idea. Is someplace to go.
All right.
Okay, good. We'll let you finish your SWOT analysis, which is great. I haven't talked about this. One choice is to say in this exercise, dump downtown and go completely online. So Elijah, that could be, if you think that's the strong information you're getting from your research, that could be a choice you make. Okay. Any other questions on the SWOT analysis? Because we're trying to turn that in. I forget when the deadline for that is. Is that tonight? It was Sunday. It was last night. And obviously,
Analysis would do last night.
Yeah, it was last night.
last night. You could, and I think you can still turn it in, Elijah. So, okay. So let me talk a little bit about the next two things to go with this project. So the end result of this project is we're trying to come up with a logo and a guide for that logo. But to get there, most designers these days are using a technique called the mood board. And some of you guys have done that in the past. We talked about that last week, and some of you guys haven't. But basically, the mood board is a way to basically brainstorm so you can focus your design process. It can be loose, it can be refined, it can be handmade, and you take a photo. It can be done on, a number of programs, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. You're trying to capture some feelings, so you're trying to get some thoughts down. And the primary use of the mood board is so you can meet with the client and make sure you guys are on the same page. Because there's nothing worse than, like, for example, Elijah was talking about colors. You say, a light pink. Well, you have one light pink in your mind and the client has another light pink, and you guys have completely different ideas. You use one and then they're like, oh, I don't like that. I want something that you would describe more as purple. So the key is to eliminate misunderstandings with the client and create a discussion so that after you guys meet with them and then they give you guys some idea, you've done some research, you've got your SWOT analysis, and then you're saying, okay, these are the things I'm thinking about. And it's mainly to confirm the client so that when you go to the next phase, designing the logo, doing the guide for that logo, then you hopefully are on the right track. So it's really to determine the visual direction. So a couple of things we want to make sure are on the mood board. We want some typography. So as you're figuring out your mood, so for example, Kathy was talking about, sweet and Southern. What type of typography is sweet? I don't know. That's what you got to figure out. Sarah was talking about, thrifting or alteration. What kind of typography is thrifty? You got to figure that out. Put some examples on there. Be sure and make sure when you're looking at typography that you get some display fonts, some fancy fonts, but also have a font for just doing the catalog or putting on the website, that you can actually read. So a body font also. So you want a display font, which is fancy, but some of those are great for a logo or on the tag, but they're bad for actually reading the price or putting on the website. Then you want to think about some colors. And I'm going to show you a color site in a minute, which I think is great. You want a color palette. So you want a couple different color variations. Really, Elijah was the only one that talked about colors too much. In his research, like if you want to stick with sort of the pinks and the purples, then you want, a couple pinks and purples to go along with that. So then let's look. I want to show you guys. I'm going to share the screen. Has anyone used Adobe Color Wheel? Anyone use that?
Yeah, I used it a couple of times in class.
Okay, so you guys have used that before. I'm going to click on over there real quick. It is free, which is great. Can you guys see the color wheel?
Yeah.
Okay. What's great about Adobe, so it's color.adobe.com/color wheel, and it's free. What's great is this stuff over here. And these are your standard color theory, different types of color systems. You got analogous, which is all similar. And basically by clicking on these dots, you're changing where this little, it's not moving for me. Moving, where these things move around to. So analogous is different from monochromatic. So that's going to stick it all in line. It's different from split complementary, which is going to do the split on the other side. Tetrahedral. So you got all kinds of different ways to do your color palette. And what's great is you can hit the save button and it basically sends it down to a PDF, and you can stick it on however you're doing your mood board. So this is a great thing to use. You can even save it as a file that you can import it into Photoshop, later when we're doing the actual logo. So this is I think a great color system to use, just because it gives you so many. Let's say if we go down to Triad, then you decide, let's say that logo I gave you was sort of pink. So there's a pink Triad right there. But let's say you want to be lighter. So you just move that in, and then all of a sudden you've got this palette down here that's a much lower contrast, a real muted palette. So you can do that type of stuff, which I think is really, it makes it easy. So any questions about, and they normally have 5 colors. You want to have at least 5 colors in your color scheme. You can certainly have more. You could have 2 different color schemes. You could have, a color scheme for the logo that's slightly different than the color scheme for the store itself. Again, it's up to you. So that is that. Then there are a bunch, there are different colors. There used to be a color thing called Cooler, and Adobe bought them. So that's gone. I know that was in this, I think that's in the textbook, Kuler. And that is not Adobe. Like I said, Adobe bought them. So that's the same thing. Okay. So what are you guys thinking about as far as your, how are you going to, is anyone thinking about what program they're going to use to do their mood board? Kathy, you have any thoughts on what program you want to use? Or are you doing it by hand or what?
For the mood board, I'm probably just going to do it just online. And there used to be a website called what was it called? The Funk or something, where you can make your own mood board. I know there's other websites where you can make a mood board. And,
yeah, there are bunches of them. You can't remember the name of that one?
I only remember one's called The Funk or something, or Defunky or something, but I don't know if that website's still there because the last time I used it was back in high school.
Okay. Interesting. Sarah, what program are you thinking about using?
I'm just going to use Illustrator.
Illustrator? Okay. Elijah, what are you going to use?
Either Photoshop or Illustrator, which is either one, whichever one works better for this.
Okay. So you can use anything you want, and you really can and you've seen the examples. In fact, I might click through a few examples. It can be real slick looking, divided in little boxes, or it can be all overlapped. Pinterest, obviously Pinterest does mood boards. Behance does a mood board. There's a thing called Matboard that does a mood board. Murally does them. There's all kinds of one. I just downloaded, just out of sheer curiosity, a thing called Just in Mind. And they do mood boards. So there's really no right answer. You can do it however you want. The key is you want to make sure you have enough stuff on the mood board. The key is not the arrangement or how you're doing it. It's that you have the colors, you have typography, you can have textures, you can have obviously a lot of photographs. So you do your research, download the information, and then put it wherever you want. So really it's completely up to you guys on that. I want to show. None of my all my examples have closed on me. That's not very good. Darn it. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if the storm is messing with my stuff. Must be. Okay, so the mood board, since we don't have a class, the mood board is going to be due this Friday. to get that turned in. Then I'm changing the deadlines. And then from the mood board, let's see if we can actually go to this. We're obviously trying to come out with a logo and a brand guide. So one of the things you want to think about with the mood board is the brand guide. We're going to do a logo, redo Amanda's logo, and that's a horrible logo. And but we're going to do a brand guide where we talk about the logo applied to various things. So as you're doing your mood board, think about the things that you're going to apply the mood board to. That can be the sign on the store. It can be labels. It can be the online store brand, top of the website. It can be all kinds of different things. So as it's going to be completely up to you. It could be the brochure. It could be, some advertisements. As we're applying the logo, think about what you want to have it applied to, and you can have some leeway in that. Yeah, I'm changing the deadline. So the mood board is not going to be due this Wednesday. I would like to have you guys have a rough draft of the mood board, and we'll stick it on the discussion topic, and we can talk about this Wednesday. So have you guys seen the examples in there? So you can see there's a bunch of examples. I'm not going to click on those right now because we're sort of getting short on time. So you guys have a pretty clear example or a pretty clear idea of how you want to arrange your mood board or how you're going to do it. Is that pretty clear for you guys individually?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing I want to look at, just so you guys can think about it, because the next part of the class is going to be doing a logo. And the logo, we have two different sets of thumbnails. So what I'm going to do is I think we're going to have next Wednesday in class, which is the next class like this. This Wednesday, we're going to look at the mood board, see how it's going, and then it'll be due on Friday. But then this weekend, obviously, there's not going to be a deadline because it's Labor Day. But I want to give you guys a heads up. So if you have some time, you can work on it. So for the logo, we're trying to first come up with a lot of thumbnails, like 30 thumbnails. And then we're going to narrow those down to 6 different ideas. Okay. So the 30 thumbnails are not going to be due this Wednesday, but next Wednesday. And we'll look at them before they're due. But I want to give you guys some ideas on how you can have some different thumbnails for the same idea. So this was a logo where the person completely changed. The word was Guild Design. So GD was the logo they went with. And you can see they did a ton of different things with it. And these are very rough. Some of these are by hand. Some of these are on the computer, very different fonts, simplified. Here's a very rounded font. Here's very, square shaped font. More of a typography font showing how it's made. Here's really small negative space D next to a giant G. Here is GD with the chat box in the middle. Here's thin designs. Here's a curly design like a shell. Here's like a Greek tile design. Here's everything faded out. Here's divine proportion, trying to get the G in that. Here's those little toys. I don't know if you've seen this, little puzzle toys. Here's more like the football helmet, like the Green Bay Packers. Here's one, the G and the D, almost looks like 2 different Gs, but reversed. So lots of different ideas. Nope, I clicked on the same one. Then this is the one that ended up picking. And the end result is we will end up with a line design with some typography, and then we'll do a color version. And they obviously picked yellow and light blue in there. So the way we'll end up doing it is do the logo black and white and then add color. But they had so many choices to go with, and obviously they picked this as what they emphasized. But a lot of these, you could have done a logo. I loved this one. I thought this one came out great with the GD, sort of like a puzzle piece. I thought there were a lot of possibilities for that. Also, the whole divine proportion or golden section idea she had a lot of different ideas with this. So we're going to first so this would be an example of narrowing it to the 6 good designs. Obviously, she did a lot more than 6. I forget how many are on here. These end up being her choices that she then narrowed down and worked on. You don't have to come up with this many, but obviously we're trying to get 6, but we're trying to do 30 different thumbnails by hand to get to this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And I put those, obviously those are on the Blackboard page. And so you can look at those. But so first we want to do the mood board, and that is really giving you the data, the colors, the texture, so that you can come up with those thumbnails. So you're looking for stuff to inform your, decisions on thumbnails, and then we'll play around with that. There's really no, right or wrong way or right or wrong thing to put on the mood board. You can have multiple types, you can have multiple textures, multiple color schemes. It's just basically trying to give you enough information so then you have something to work with. So you're not just making it up out of nothing when you start to work on those logo thumbnails. And then the brands, brand typing. So you can look for examples of labels and furniture and things like that. Okay. Questions. I have some questions for you. So could you have some just hand drawings that you've done on the mood board?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, you could have that. Okay. Could you go out and take your own photos of stuff?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I'm actually working on a project around the Charlotte Art League, and they recently tore down this old building, and all these beams are exposed with cool little sort of rusted beams and ripped up cement. And I was like, okay, I got to get some pictures of this for what I'm doing with on a poster for my studio. So taking your own photos is good too. Anything like that is fair game. Okay. Questions. So I'm going to change all the deadlines on Blackboard. So I'm going to change the deadline for the mood board. It was going to be due this Wednesday at midnight. It's now going to be due Friday at midnight. And what I'd like to do on Wednesday is you guys get as far as you can on Wednesday, or get quite a bit done, so we can sort of look at them and upload them. We'll look at them. You guys can share the screen, or we'll put them on. I'm going to create a discussion thread so we can talk about it. And then I'm going to change the logo deadlines as well, so that we start working on those next week. Okay. Questions. Okay. So also I will send an email. I might email the video of this class to everyone in a couple of different ways and put it in a couple of different places. And if you guys don't mind clicking on it just to see if you can see it, even though you don't have to watch it, but just see if you can actually access this email or the video of this class. Okay, you guys. So I will see you guys on Wednesday to talk about where you are on your mood board.
All right.
Okay. Bye. See y'all.
Bye.
See you later.
See ya.